Hello guys, we are team number 9. We're going to talk about the last Incoterm, that is delivery duty paid. This Incoterm is the less commonly used, but also is the easier one to the buyer.
We'll be explaining a few rules from number 1 to 10, of course, and it should be fun. Enjoy the video.
Delivery duty pay means that the seller fulfills his obligation to deliver when the goods have been made available at the named place in the country of importation. The seller has to bear all risk and costs, including duties, taxes, and other charges of delivering the goods cleared for importation. Whilst the ex works term represents the minimum obligation for the seller, DDP represents the maximum obligation.
How we already said, the DDP represents the maximum obligation for the seller. The parties are well advised to specify as clearly as possible the point where the agreed place of destinations, as the costs and risks to that point are for the account of the seller. The seller is advised to procure contracts of carriage that match this choice precisely, but they are not obligated to use it. If the seller incurs costs under the contract of carriage related to unloading at the place of destination, the seller is not entitled to recover such costs from the buyer unless otherwise agreed between the parties. The parties are well advised not to use DDP if the seller is unable directly or indirectly to obtain import clearance. Any VAT or other taxes payable upon import are for the seller's account unless expressly agreed otherwise in a sales contract.
So we have a summary on buyers and sellers' responsibilities under DDP rule in Incoterms 2010. The seller's responsibilities are provide the goods, commercial invoice, and other documentation as required by the sales contract, obtain at own risk and cost or require export and import licenses, documents and authorizations, and carry out export and import formalities and procedures, as well as those required from transshipment through any country prior to delivery. Contract and pay for the carriage of the goods to the named place of destination. He has no obligation of insurance to the buyers to secure a contract of insurance. At the buyer's request and cost, provide information to enable the buyers to obtain insurance. Make the goods available to the buyer, not unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named place of destination. Assume all risk of loss or damage to the goods until they have been made available to the buyer, not unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named place of destination within the agreed upon time. Pay all costs until the goods have been made available to the buyer, not unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named place of destination. Pay all costs related to export and import, including customs formalities, duties, and taxes, as well as costs required for transshipment through any country prior to delivery. Pay all costs of loading and carriage to the named place of destination, and pay for costs of unloading if unloading is included in the contract for main carriage. Provide timely notice that enables the buyer to take possession of the goods at the named place of destination within the agreed upon time. Provide the buyers with a document that will allow the buyers to claim the goods at the named place of destination. Pay all costs associated with checking the quality and quantity of the goods to be in conformity with the sales contract. Provide inspections as required for export and import formalities. Package the goods unless the goods are conventionally sold unpacked. Package the goods as the seller deems appropriate for transport unless the buyer has given specific requirements prior to the finalization of the sales contract, and provide marking appropriate to the packaging. Finally, timely provide the buyer, at the buyer's request and cost, assistance in securing information and documents, including security information required by the buyers for import and transport of the goods from the named place of destination to the final destination. And lastly, reimburse to the buyers for buyer's costs related to securing information and or documentation, including security information the sellers require for export formalities, transport, security clearance, important formalities, and transshipment to the named place of destination.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the buyer responsibilities. Okay, how we all know, he needs to pay the goods as provided on the sales contract. Also, he needs to provide the seller all the seller requests and costs, assistance, securing licensing, documentation, and authorization required to import of goods. The buyer doesn't have any obligation to contract carriage or insurance. He needs to take delivery of the goods at the named place of destinations as provided in the contract. Also, he needs to assume all risk and loss of damage from the line that goods have been available for the buyer at the named place of destination within an agreed upon time. Also, he needs to pay any additional cost after the goods have been made available at the named place of destination. Pay the cost for unloading if unloading was not included in the seller's contract. Pay cost of onward carriage. Also, if according to the sales contract, the buyer is entitled to specify the named point of taking delivery at the named place or destination to give the seller sufficient notice. Also, he needs to accept, obviously, the seller delivery document in conformity with the sales contract. The seller doesn't have any obligation for the pre-shipment inspection required for export or import. This is in part of the buyer. Also need to advise with time to the seller of any security-related data requirements, reimburse the seller for seller costs related to security information or documentation, and provide all the information that the seller needs to make the required for export, transport, import, or security clearance of the goods at the named place of destination.